It is the Anfield Wrap live on a Friday afternoon. It is a pleasure. It's Paul Cope, it's Dan Morgan, and it's Cam Rimmer with me. Across the board, we've got a lot going on this tour live. Coming up, we've got Chris Maguire and Matty Lyon. And in there as well, we've got Claire Stanicliffe. They are to come, talking about trying to raise some funds for very, very different but equally worthy projects. That is to come. I did both of those interviews this week. A pleasure to do them. But we will start off with Cam and with Dan and with Paul. And we'll go to Paul first and foremost. And manager's press conference always sort of grabs you a little bit, and he was obviously going to be asked about the Mo Salah tweet. I mean, my favourite thing about the Mo Salah tweet is he decided to go grayscale, just to really communicate the seriousness of the enterprise. Grayscale was what he decided to do. The manager says, you know, it's really interesting. Can I plead with you not to do headlines? Is one way to approach the topic in quite a disarming way. I think we'll find out if it does headlines. I think it's the reality of the Europa League. You know, none of us want to be in it. We all know where we think we should be. But if you're in something, I'm not saying pick your first 11 for all 6 group games. I'm very much not saying that. But what I'm saying is if you're in something, we're not, you know, we shouldn't have the arrogance. We should have the humility to say if we're in it because we deserve to be there. And if we deserve to be there, we deserve to give it our best shot. And that for me is the beginning, middle, and end of the matter.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, first things first, I think we need to start at this point starting to worry about Jurgen with his press conferences and reaction to the press and his absolute fear of headlines. Like the number of times he says that during a season,
it's really funny.
Please don't make a headline over what he said. And I feel like some of the journalists should just go to him, mate. That's the whole point of this enterprise. The whole point of us being here is to get you to say something we can put in a headline. And I know you hate it. And I know you hate all of us. I know you hate this part of your job. But that's just the way it is. And maybe you should all accept it. You do like a bit of letting go over the summer. And
yeah.
No one's picking up to the editor after 1 p.m. on a Friday. Everyone's ghosting their editors. There's no contact at all.
Yeah.
It's a line from Jurgen. Don't know.
Yeah.
He said to keep it under.
Yeah. But look, the other thing I did like about what he said was, which basically, he basically just summed up what Twitter is, which is like, yeah, that's just what Mo thought the second he sent that tweet. I saw him the next day. He seemed all right. He was smiling. So let's not get too hung up on what Mo Salah said the second he sent one tweet. And on the whole Europa League thing, I mean, why wouldn't we just be saying, let's win it? If I'm one of the lads in the squad who's won everything there is to win, I'm saying, let's add that to my little collection, shall we? Let's complete the collection. And we've seen what's happened with other clubs in those competitions. This Europa one and the other one, whatever that is. Like, it's not that hard. The reality is, especially when you're a team like Liverpool and you've done the Champions League year in, year out, this whole Thursday, Sunday business and all that, just get that out your heads. Let's not go into the season doing all, it makes a big difference playing Thursday, Sunday. Don't worry about it. Just go pick a team. I know we're going to do this later, but you use this competition to make sure all the lads in your squad that aren't getting games otherwise are getting loads of games. Like, literally mentioned Carvalho at the end of the thing. I'm saying to Fabio Carvalho, lad, you're not going on loan. You're going to win the Europa League for us. How about that for yourself for next season? And then use that whole season as a platform for the year after.
I think the humility point, I think, matters, Cam. It's in Salah's tweet / Instagram posting / whatever. It is about sort of, you know, we haven't been up to it and it's unacceptable. You know, I'd almost rather not dwell on the negative of that, not just from some sort of point of view, not really wanting to dwell on the negatives, but more from the idea of being able to say, well, okay, that's that done. This is where we are. The job now is to make the best fist of it that's possible. I don't think it's at the group stage should be relatively straightforward, but you can get difficult teams in the knockouts. You know, third place Champions League teams drop down. You know, there's enough quality in there, full stop. It won't be a stroll to win it. You're gonna have to work hard to win it, but now it's something that we can win. And for me, that's the humility point here. That's what I want from Liverpool. I don't want a Liverpool Football Club that ever thinks it's too big for its boots. It's got the boots that it's got, and it's got to make the best of it.
Yeah, and to be honest, it's all on us. It's not like we've fell short. It's all our doing why where we are. So this is it, sort of thing, isn't it? So for me, it's next season, the Europa League, as you said, shouldn't be on Salah's radar until after Christmas, if we're being honest. If the draw goes our side, it should not be on his radar. he can concentrate on the league and he can just have a cup final every week in the league for me, for all I care, and just play in the league and just go for that. But as for the tweet itself, I don't know why everyone's so surprised, because he's known for it. Like, remember in lockdown, he was like, we're champions, we should not be doing this. Last season, he basically called the quadruple. He called the quadruple in about September. So it's like, do you know what I mean? So he's prone to a tweet like this, and I think I can see why a lot of people are being a bit like, oh God, does that mean he's getting off? I don't think he will. I think we'll probably get.
That didn't even occur to me, to be honest with you.
It did on my timeline, I'm not gonna lie. I've seen a few who were saying, oh, like, this is it, sort of things. Like, come on, let's not be getting all reaction over this. But yeah, no, I think it's, yeah, as I said, it's not on his radar till after Christmas, and then he can just come in at the end and scoop up a winner's medal, hopefully.
Yeah, indeed. Just very quickly, Toby Larone there in the comments is my wardrobe just spring, summer, colour all year round. Toby, honestly, I've just been outside on the front there by the canal basin and with the river in front of me with the sunshine, and I was meant to go home tonight and be a reasonable young man, and as it is, I think I'm out till 4. So I'm dressed for it at least, and we'll go from there. Dan, we'll on that and on that sort of wider point. One of the things,
out till 4?
No, not on me being out till 4. On that, on the Europa League strategy, for me, it just seems crystal clear, which is that you might have a second seed. We'll be number 1 seed. You might have a second seed who are a good side, and home and away you might go really quite strong, especially if the weekend game that follows. But what I think it is a genuine positive for, and I do really mean it is a positive. I'd much rather be in the Champions League, but this is still a positive. Is there's 6 or 7 footballers I think who will be in Liverpool squad next season who, as is being said, will really benefit from feeling as though they've got a pretty guaranteed 6 games of Europa League football, group game football lined up for them. And then if we need them, which we will do over the course of the campaign, if and when we need them, when we get into December, when you get into January, when the games come thick and fast, knowing we can call upon those footballers and knowing that they know the ropes and the system, that they've improved, I think is going to be invaluable.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was only last season that we were talking about Liverpool having the best 25-man squad in the league, and that was proven out. When you get to the final stages of all 4 competitions that you enter, it shows that you've had to have depth there. Takumi Minamino steps up a lot, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Last season for Liverpool in games that they need them, and I think they're gonna have to find that niche, that sweet spot again with certain players in the squad. I'm not quite sure whether that's already there in many senses. I think it will be for a player like Harvey Elliott. I think there might have been a suggestion of a conversation to be had around someone like Elliott and the development at the end of the season. But this competition, I'd say, does provide a bit more of a pathway for players who are in his sort of space, and you can probably reel off about 5 or 6 of them if you do drill down into Liverpool's squad. I think in general, Neil, I think it's, I think it does feel like the end of something and the beginning of something else, and I think being in the Europa League only adds to that. I think there's a real solid question about where we place our expectancy going into next season, and a lot of that will be defined by, what Liverpool do in the transfer market and the players they bring in, and the sort of shape of them and the look of them going into next season. But as a side that's got 90 plus points 3 out of 4 seasons, and then they have the season that they just have, I don't know where to place my expectation of them. I don't know whether to expect to be up for a title challenge and a 90 plus point season again, or whether or not I'm back to the 16-17 version of ourselves that is all about just being in and around 4th place. I did a piece of work recently on a show I'm preparing for, and the game in question that I was looking at was Southampton at home in 16-17, and we were all a bag of rags after that. We were an absolute bag of rags. Liverpool had 2 games to play. They have 4 points on Man United. They needed to basically win the last 2 games to essentially qualify for the Champions League. And it was the biggest thing in our entire lives. There was nothing bigger. And I just, I think we can get back to that state, and I don't really want us to. I want us to be at the top challenging with Man City. But, where our eggs are placed, in what basket is really interesting, as much as interesting as anything else.
Well, the links part of this, Paul, the links have been coming all week. McAllister and Mount, the week started with McAllister being strongly linked with Manchester City, although that then goes really, really quiet. The week's ended with Mount being strongly linked with Manchester United. That appears to be ongoing, but you can't tell with this sort of thing. One of the problems, Liverpool are now very firmly, and I think we may be a bit not used to it. Everyone knows, and the manager's talking about the fact that he's doing business. And last few years, when the manager said, we're not doing any business, we're not doing this, we're not doing this, we're not doing this, you've sort of been able to go, no, we're not going to get embroiled in that sort of thing. Our reality now is that that's where we are. We are embroiled in it in the way that United are embroiled in it every single summer, the way in which Chelsea don't just get embroiled in it, but they welcome it seemingly. They want it in their lives, the Chelsea hierarchy. Liverpool now, any player who's looks of Champions League class, especially one who plays in the middle of the park, is going to find himself linked with Liverpool, and we've got to work out what's plausible and what isn't, and the other noises that are made as well.
Yeah, I would very much like to think, and time will obviously tell with this, that it's all just irrelevant, and the lads are all pretty much done, and it's just a case of when we announce them, and we'll just see us. I'd really like to see. I think I always get my years mixed up, but I think it was Kiev when we lost, and then the next day announced Fabinho.
Yeah, it was.
Like, we're literally on our way home. We're like, oh, we've just signed this boss lad. I would very much like that they've done that this season, especially with what's gone on with the whole Bellingham shenanigans. I would like to think that FSG know that we could do with a bit of a boost. Joe announced too early on to get everyone happy, get everyone going into the summer bouncing, and start the ball roll with it, Joe. If you've got others that you're worried about getting over the line, it always takes me back to do stories about when City first had their money and they were doing their chief exec at the time. What was his name?
Gary Cook.
Gary Cook doing the diddle on all the different players, saying we've signed Aguero's coming to David Silva, and saying to Aguero, David Silva's coming. At least once you've announced a couple of players, you can say to others, look, we're serious here. We're not messing around. Don't worry about us. We are. Going back to what Dan said, that's a really big point for talking to players, because players will be thinking the same thing. What's Liverpool next year? Is Liverpool next year 90 plus points again? Or is Liverpool fighting for fourth place? And you've got to be able to convince. There'll be a couple of people in there, I'm sure. You've got to be able to convince that we are going to be back. So that's really important. As for who it is, I think the problem we've all got now, I think we've all been shaken a little bit, haven't we? From they had a little sweet spot for a few years. Our whole supporting life supported Liverpool. I suppose in very recent years, up until this sweet period I'm about to talk about, we didn't trust them one bit. You know, transfer committees debated endlessly online and on shows and in the media, and buying players that didn't fit and all that. And then we've had this run where we've all...
Rafa Benitez, Gareth Barry, Robbie Keane.
Yeah, all of that. And then into the Rodgers era, do you know what I mean? And you lose Suarez, you buy Balotelli. All this nonsense. And then we had this a few years where they've just got our trust. Like, Liverpool fans all of a sudden, almost unanimously, were like, well, we just trust whatever they're going to do. And I think that's been shaken quite a bit recently. So they need to earn that back and win that back. And I think acting quickly and getting a couple of really solid signings in would help.
Acting quickly, I think, would be a big deal, Cam. And I suspect they might want to. The issue they've got is that, you know, I use Brighton and McAllister as an example. Unless McAllister is very, very explicit with Brighton, he's only going to one place, then you're in a situation where, well, if you're Brighton, it's sort of not in your interest to act that quickly. Maybe a little bit quickly, but not the idea of it happening tomorrow. I think it's there's someone in the comments there that said they need about a 300 million spend on the squad if we have a chance of competing or even top four. I mean, that sort of stuff I think just sort of overstates the case. We've just come, effectively, we're going to finish about 3 points off top four. So I don't think it's, to break 70 points, I don't think we need a 300 million spend, but I don't care about that. I just care solely about competing, Cam, at the very highest level. And I take both Dan and Paul's point about, what is this? But Mo Salah's tweet, Jurgen Klopp's contract, Virgil van Dijk's age, Salah's age, Alisson's age. I feel as though the idea of being linked with Premier League based players, to me, it all suggests Liverpool want to just hit the ground running. They just want to hit the ground running, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, but also it's, when the Bellingham stuff, I mean, don't even know if that's finished or not. The whole thing around that was basically, in looking at it from what I've seen, it's like Klopp is thinking this is going to go right till the very end of the summer. I just want to have my business done early. So now it's looking at plays that you can do. But then again, it's, is it a coincidence that the week that we officially can't get top four, other teams are now in for all, these like McAllisters and Mounts and stuff? It's all a bit, with these players holding on to see what we're doing. And if they are, like, they're not the sort of players you want to be coming anyway, because you want players to be buying into this, buying into this new project where it is now. So yeah, I want it being as quick as possible. I mean, as someone just said in the comments there, you want it where they just announced them with like the away kit and the third kit, just out of nowhere in the main stands, and it's just done like that. Because Klopp will want to be working with these players as soon as possible. Because really, we really don't have the time to be going into next season still planning. He literally needs it for the first day of pre-season training.
Yeah, the amount of spend that's been asked again in the comments, Dan, for me, it's a bit of a misnomer. And what I mean by that is, it's going to be influenced by also your sales in amongst that as well. You got to have a cash flow thing. But I think the other part of this is, I want, in my head, it's 5 quality numbers. It's 5 quality footballers, of whom 2.5 of them are midfielders. That's what I want to see them do, and top quality players. And I'm not going to sort of think if Liverpool get a bargain, something's gone wrong. Similarly, I'm not going to necessarily think, oh my God, if Liverpool are overspending, something's not quite right. So I'm just all about, I'd love them to add 5 quality footballers, of whom 2.5 are midfielders.
Yeah, the price is never the price, is it? I suspect one of the reasons that they're so in for McAllister is because they're quite confident they can get the deal done with not a lot being paid up front. And, that's how they've structured deals in the past. And I'm sure it's how they'll do it now. And, that's the top line with this, that, whatever Liverpool are rumoured to have paid for someone almost indefinitely won't be that straight away. So, it is a balancing act in that sense. And Liverpool will have to be defined by ultimately, the sort of player they feel they can get, but also, the type of player that now wants to come and play for Liverpool. And I think there's been quite rightly a lot made of the Mason Mount thing this week, and a couple of other links that seemingly are now being defined by, player X wants Champions League football, or player X might think he can get more wages. Well, I think that's more on the player than the club themselves. Liverpool should always have enough credit in the bank, in a lot of senses. This isn't like Sanchez doesn't want to move to Liverpool chat all over again. It's the fact that Liverpool is Liverpool, and Liverpool's a side that out of 4 of the past 5 years have competed for every single honour. So they've still got one of the top 3 managers in the world there. They've got, a real sort of admirable setup, I'd say, across the board in terms of facilities. I think the squad looks healthy enough. If I was a player like McAllister, or of his ilk, I'd be saying, yeah, get me there. I really want to be part of that project, those supporters, etc., so on. So yeah, I'm with you. I think, we need to feel like I talked about the end of something and the beginning of something else. For it to feel like a true beginning next season, I really feel like we need to see a real different look to the squad. We need it to feel invigorated. We need it to feel fresh. We need players who are doing the first pre-season with this manager and thinking, oh my God, I've never been asked to run this much in my life. What's this? Because ultimately we've ran a lot of players in every sense, but literally and metaphorically, and we've ran a squad up until the point we couldn't do any more. And maybe we should have, started disbanding that a little bit more, a little bit earlier. But this is a new look Liverpool, and to be a new look Liverpool, it needs new players ultimately. So, I'm looking forward to seeing who that is, like everyone else is.
All right then. It is TAW Live. I've got Cam, I've got Paul, and I've got Dan coming up. I've got Chris Maguire and Mary Lyon. Mary is the chairwoman of the Association for Children Damaged by Hormone Pregnancy Tests. Chris is part of that association. He is also an Anfield Wrap contributor. You've also heard him do that. Well, no, he does the Golden Samba as well. I've got him talking about that. And in addition to that, I have also got Claire Stanicliffe, who's from the England Deaf Women's Football Team. They are coming up for you right now. And that's the now of it all. Thank you very much to Chris, Mary, and Claire. Hopefully, you've been able to support them in some way, shape, or form, or just have more awareness around it. Paul, again from the manager's press conference, but it sort of knocks into the Southampton game. He talks a little bit about using different players, using fresher players. He goes out of his way to praise Carvalho. It's quite an odd little passage, and then talks about him going on loan next season, but says he's never been more impressive and he's going to have a fantastic career. Carvalho's in the category of player who might just appear in this one against Southampton. I think Harvey Elliott's a little likelier in there as well. There might be a couple of players who've not featured that much recently because, and it's been very rare for Liverpool across the last few seasons, there is quite literally nothing riding on the game against Southampton last day other than the opportunity to play a bit of football.
Yeah, I mean, the Carvalho thing is interesting, isn't it? Because even though I said earlier on in this very show, you should build your Europa League team against him, I also would quite happily see him sold, because I do think there's an element of Carvalho where it's like he's a fabulous footballer. I can imagine everyone who ever like comes near him in Liverpool behind the scenes, like, he's fabulous. And then the next thing they say is, I don't know where we play him though. Where do we play him in this side? Like with the way we're set up. And going back to talk about signings, I was thinking before, but I thought, he's probably just a little bit small. I'd be saying to every I've been saying this for weeks now, months probably. When you're signing players this year, the order on your top trumps is different than it used to be. Number one has got to be reliability. You need players who are going to be fit all the time. But up towards the top of that list is the question I'd be asking everyone is, can you play fullback?
Yeah,
because I don't want to buy any fullbacks anymore. And I know this ties into something you've been saying for a long time. And me and you used to talk about Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain for this, and I still think he's missed a trick. Still think he's missed a big trick in his career here. But going back to Carvalho, I don't think that's a trick he could do. So I think it'll be interesting to see who he decides to throw in for it. And maybe it will be a matter of like, which of the lads does he look at and think, you really want to win a game of footy, or have you like switched off for the summer? And I think there even could be an element of, why do you want to risk people?
So
because you could pick up knocks and injuries and think, what's the point?
So this is but also there's something else, which is the few of them are going to go and play some international football for a couple of games, and that's why. I mean, I should never do this, but whenever a manager, Cam, says X is ill, and we've just had a pandemic, so let's be clear, but whenever a manager says X is ill, there's always a bit of me going, is he though? Is he? And Canate being ill feels very much like, you know what, at some point I might need a favour from the French manager. So this one, won't risk him last game of the season. Canate wants to play for his country, very proud to play for his country. Send him off, let him play for his country off the basis of the fact that maybe next year in March, if we're going for all the trophies, I'm saying to the French manager, can you do us a favour and not pick Canate for this squad? Can you not pick him for this game? Can you not play him in the second of the friendlies or the third of the friendlies or the Nations League games or whatever? Because it's one that I just feel as though you can see from space, to be honest with you. And it did get my attention immediately.
Yeah, literally agree with everything there. I always find it funny when they come out, when they always just say ill, don't they? Like, they never actually specify, well, what team. Like, I'd love it if someone, I'll stress Klopp gets in the press conference anyway, he'd probably try and swing for one of them if they said to him, well, you know, what do you mean? What's actually wrong with him? But
has he had a Sudafed?
But yeah, that's just looking for next season. And then in terms of the team, you could argue that this is the first day of pre-season, really, in terms of getting lads onto the pitch and saying, let's see what you've got in terms of next season. He might try something different. He might try different ideas, and then he'll be seeing, are you already on the beach yet, or do you want to play? Do you want to play for me next season? Because there's lads there who, obviously, with this Europa League next season, like your Curtis Jones, Harvey Elliott, who could easily be making plus 30 appearances starts next season for us. And so that's for them. You know, Jones is coming on off the back of how good his form has been. He could go on there, have another brilliant 90, and then it's like, well, yeah, you've got your shares for the start of pre-season and hopefully for the start of next season. So apart from Kanate's mystery illness, it could be literally anyone, couldn't it, really, who's going to start and just finish the season off.
Is there anything you want to see him do, Dan? Anything you want to see him look at? What's your, I've got something which is, if Robertson is out, and again, it feels a little bit like, well, Robertson's going to be playing for Scotland, what with him being the captain of Scotland. But if Robertson is out, I wouldn't mind seeing him go Gomez there and have a look at that. Is there anything else that you've got your eye on including that?
I was thinking about that. I also thought, I think it's a shame that since Arsenal at home and since we've inverted Trent, if you like, we haven't really seen Liverpool. Well, we haven't seen Liverpool come up against the top six side away, because I think the answer to Trent, I've seen, the alternative, if you like, I've seen someone put in the comments before about Thiago, is I think Liverpool actually playing Trent at right back in games against, your top six away, and using a Thiago or a Pacetic next to Fabinho like they did last season. It's often forgotten, but last season there was a lot of Thiago and Fabinho as a two. And I think that's your sort of flip for that. And he might look at that, something like that with Henderson. But I can't see him doing it in this game. I think, the build up in the 3 and the 2 is against the side that's already relegated just seems like a no-brainer. You know, it wouldn't surprise me if we end up starting 4 forwards. You know,
So that's the other thing I wouldn't mind seeing. So I've talked about that. You know, Gomez there, Dan. I'd love to see him start Gakpo where Henderson's been playing. Like I would really like, and then 3 in front of him. That's what I'd like to see in this one.
Yeah, I wouldn't be against that at all. I think there's going to be loads of times next season where Liverpool do have to use that as well, and should be using it a lot more. You know, again, it's the thing of where we set our expectations. Liverpool should be able to flat track a lot next season. This season shouldn't change that at all. They should be able to take control of I'd say 80% of the games, and again, you know, it's just about what we do when we are, facing, for example, the top 6 away, and I think that's something we're going to look at. But we haven't got either of them 2 players fit. That's by the by. He referenced sentiment quite a bit, and how he might maybe be susceptible to that. So that'd be interesting to see, what he does there. If there is a Bobby or a Milner or both of them starting and just giving them the game. But I got to sort of take it from there. Nunes is trained as well.
If he's on the pitch, and I love Mo Salah to pieces, Paul, but if he's on the pitch, Milner best be taking the pens. Like, if there's one thing we can do for this fella at this point, I want James Milner on the pens if he's on the pitch. The thing with Milner and Firmino, and I think it's the lost thing about Firmino, everyone said it's his perfect goodbye. The home game against Villa, it's Firmino's perfect goodbye. The thing I kept thinking was, he's got most of his key goals away from Anfield. You literally go through his key goals and some of his key performances and his key moments. He scores the opener against Leicester in 2019 when we just come back from the World Club Cup final, where he scored the winner, where in the semi-final he scored the winner, where he was then that season going to go on and score away at Wolves, which was the winner. And earlier in that season, he scored away at Palace, which was also the winner. You go through a lot of your key Firmino moments. His first Liverpool goal is away at Manchester City to make it 3-1. He gets 2 against Norwich City in the 5-4 at Carrow Road. You go through this sort of list of what Firmino's wonderful moments. So many of them have come away rather than home, which is part of the footballer he is. And for me, it's not finished with Firmino. I want to see him get on the pitch for a period of time. I want to see Milner on the pitch for a period of time. And I expect both to have an impact because they're both wonderful footballers who like it when it's hard.
Well, like you said as well, there's no way Firmino or Milner thinks that a perfect send-off was drawing at home. Is there? No way in a million years. So Milner on the pitch afterwards getting into you, just like him, gutted we drew. Like, and Klopp referenced it afterwards, saying like it's hard to balance a day like that where you've got all this build up, this stuff you've planned for after the game, which you've got to do in advance. And you've got all this emotion to handle. And you want to win the game against a good side, like a side that's been in good form. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if both those lads are knocking on Klopp's door saying, I want to play and I want to win our last game. Like, when you talk about lads who are ready to play this game, and when you think about lads who want to prove themselves for next season, well, I mean, to be right up there on your list to be those two who want to play and want to put everything in to get a win. And
are also need to get a contract. Neither of them are packing in football. Neither of them are retiring.
Precisely.
So they want to show something there. We'll want to be all over it. Nunes as well. Cam mentioned by the manager, he's in training. Be quite nice to see him. He gets a brace against Southampton earlier in the season in the home game.
Yeah, this sort of game where it's if he comes on and scores, like if he gets a hat trick, it's not gonna be like, right, that's it, we're sorted for next season. But it gives you something to build on for next season a bit, doesn't it? So it's a big one because for Nunes, because kind of like came in with all of this hype and stuff, and since the turn of the year when pear-shaped, but then Gakpo coming into his own, he's kind of just being left out a bit, hasn't he, really? So it's, I'd be looking to hopefully start him. Not sure how bad the injury was, but or at least get some sort of action, like just get a goal to just round off which has been an alright debut season.
There's also another couple of footballers where we might not know, Dan, where there's a chance it could be the last Liverpool game. It could be Joel Matip's last Liverpool game if he comes in for Canate. I still think that the manager last week was dangling the carrot of there's a fee for which you can get Kelleher. None of you have offered it yet. That's something that's there or thereabouts. Shimikas in tears last week. If he gets on in this one, it could be his last Liverpool appearance. There may be a surprise somewhere along the line. I think that's a part of this, isn't it? That some of these footballers who we've been on the journey with, I think Matip being the number one example of one you've had all the love for an extended period. This could be it. This could be his last game.
Yeah, but I also think there's a possibility that a few people woke up on Friday morning with the realisation that they're maybe not getting a move even if they want one, because their players we're going to need next season for the Europa League. We can't leave ourselves with too much work to do.
Yeah.
You get rid of two of them, three. Yeah, I think Keller has his own case. I think he's a player who probably needs to develop by moving and being a first for someone. So, I could see a world in where he goes and Liverpool maybe insert a buyback and maybe look to use that if his development is exponential in that sense. But I think the other players, I think Liverpool are going to need them given the competition they're in, certainly for the first 6 months. Maybe you could see one or two of them going in January if Liverpool get past the group stages in the Europa League. And then, I think like I said, the other thing with that is that you don't want to leave yourself with too much to do because of who you're replacing them with when you've already got, like we said earlier, 5 players to sign.
There we are. I'm going to ask you if we're going to beat Southampton. I don't know. I'm going to ask you what you think's going to happen to the Blue Brethren. I think you underestimate the power of Goodison Park at your peril. I think if Everton need to win a home game, last game of the season, certainly against a side who are bottom half, they'll find a way to do it. That's my analysis. Paul, who goes down?
I think Brighton let us all down, let themselves down, let their families down.
Let the nation down. Let the nation down, Paul.
Yeah, they ruined Everton for all of us. I'm glad we're going into the last game. After that, I'm glad we're going into the last game with hope. But realistically, not much. I don't know. I haven't been following the news. I was going to keep it as a surprise for myself, but I'll ask: is Calvert-Lewin fit?
No. Unlikely.
No.
Okay, so that is the big thing, I think. And going back to something Dan said before, he referenced Klopp as being one of the top 3 managers in the world, and I assume he meant the third one being Big Sam. So you never know. The reality is they've all got winnable games, haven't they? But also the reality is down at that end of the table, they shouldn't all win. So you just never know with a game like that. Because what you were saying about Goodison, yes, it could be. We know what a ground like that can be like. It can be brilliant, and if they get ahead early on and they're doing well, yeah, it could just be. They could have it done all done and dusted in the first half an hour. But if it gets a bit nervous, and if things start going a bit wrong, and Neil Maupay's playing up front for them, there is still a chance. But I would say they'll. I mean, the bookies very rarely get things badly wrong, don't they? And the odds on them staying up are good now. So I think they'll stay up.
Cam, will they stay up?
They're going to go down, and our ends will be better than Madrid and Istanbul.
Dan Morgan, are they going to stay up?
What's been really interesting is, we've been used to like February onwards where winning every game is the only thing that's required. And you sort of have a little bit of vested interest in this because it's them. And from February onwards, basically the whole season, it's a situation where no one wins. So it's like, it is the fact that I think they'll stay up, but they'll stay up because Leeds and Leicester are absolutely atrocious and don't look like they've got a win in them from anywhere. Like I wouldn't bet anything on either of those two winning. I don't think Leeds will win at all, and I probably don't think Leicester will win.
You were watching Leeds second half against West Ham, and we God,
it was and also, but I think. Look, I'm not interested in Everton essentially, but if I've got a bit of interest in what happens with them on Sunday, I'm just intrigued by what the reaction will be at full time, because I think there'll be a bit of adulation that they've stayed up, but that they can't, they can't stay happy about that for that long. And I'm talking, within the first half an hour of that being confirmed, because it's atrocious for 2 seasons on the bounce now, and it shows no sign of getting better for them. And frankly, it remains unacceptable. So I think there's a good chance that it does still turn to anger, even if they do it, which I think they will.
No, go on.
So I just wanted to throw into that, when you mentioned Sam at the end of the Leeds game, so he's carrying on something which I've seen as a theme this year with a few managers, which I love and hope carries on to next season, which is managers coming out and once they realise they can't do anything that they said they were going to do when they first came in, just throw all the players under the bus. Basically, just come out and say all the players are crap. This is why this team, like Lampard was doing it early in the season, and I love it. He started doing it. He got to Chelsea. Like, what do you expect me to do with all these? They're a load of crap, and if they've been crap for years, they're crap now, and I can't do anything about it. And you're there going, I mean, if it wasn't your job to do something about it,
I was about to say, What a way to talk yourself out of employment as and when that happens.
Absolutely. So
I just think with though, like obviously, like we say about the bookies, like odds and stuff. But I just think if either Leicester or Leeds go ahead, and then if Bournemouth were to sneak one, if there's a ground, I'll get restless really, really quick. It's Goodison, isn't it?
You're planning a big Sunday, aren't you?
It is indeed. It is
You're
indeed.
right.
Cam's going to
Southampton.
Southampton, and what he's actually planning is a big Sunday on his way home. That's what he's actually planning. Listen, thank you very much if you've been listening to TAW Live this week's podcast, or watching it indeed as a live. Thanks to Chris, Marianne, Claire, all the way through. Andy for producing. We've had Dan, we've had Cam, and we've had Paul. Whatever you're doing on this bank mini retirement weekend, enjoy.